In measuring shoulder external rotation, we want the person supine on a table in a relaxed postural position. Once again, if they have trouble maintaining a neutral cervical curve, it's okay to place a towel or a block under their head. We want the person in the middle of the table. For some individuals, it's okay to have them shift laterally away from you. That allows the table to be under mostly of the arm. Now, in this position, we're going to bring the arm up at 90 degrees. We want to make sure, if we can, to get that shoulder joint, that glenohumeral joint, at that 90-degree angle. We're going to keep the elbow at 90 degrees, making sure we don't bring the elbow into too much extension or flexion in this range of motion measurement. Now I'm going to use my opposite hand, place it on top of the shoulder joint to approximate it into position. I'm then going to bring them back into external rotation and find that end range of motion, that first barrier of resistance, or the point where the shoulder begins to pop up into my hand. Maintaining that 90-degree angle, I'm going to hold my end range. I'm then going to zero out the halo on the short side. Once I zero it out and collect my zero, maintaining that end range, I'm simply going to rotate it, place the long end of the base along the forearm, and at that point, I'm going to lock in my measurement. Now, for some people, they're not going to be able to get their arm into 90-degree position at the glenohumeral joint. It's okay to put them in a 75 or even 45-degree position. Just make sure, if you're using our Kinesics software, to put that in the notes section. When measuring medial hip rotation, it's important the person is supine in a natural relaxed postural position. We want them in alignment as much as possible. We want to make sure the opposite leg isn't too far into abduction, adduction. We want to bring the knee directly up over the hip complex. Now, in this movement, we want to make sure that that knee stays directly over the hip. The hip doesn't move too far into flexion or extension, into adduction or abduction. And for some people, it may be important to kind of approximate that knee, that leg, down into the hip socket when doing our range of motion measurement. So for this measurement, keeping the knee at 90 degrees, I'm going to bring the halo and place it on the shin. I'm going to pinch the halo against their shin using my hand, making sure the laser bisects their shin. At this point, I'm going to collect my zero. I'm going to bring the leg, keeping the knee at 90 degrees, out towards me. At my first barrier of resistance, or when I start to see that pelvis rock up into that lumbar region, at that point, I'm going to maintain my end range of motion, making sure that the halo base doesn't tilt or turn, as that can throw off my measurement. At that point is where I'm going to lock in my measurement. When measuring straight leg hamstring, the person is going to be supine on the table in a natural relaxed postural position. We want to make sure they're in alignment as much as possible. Now on this one, I'm going to zero the halo out on the long side on the table. We're going to bring the person's leg up into flexion, making sure that we keep the leg in line with the hip. We don't bring it into too much adduction or abduction. I'm going to bring the leg into flexion, keeping the knee straight, locking it in, just to where we come to our first barrier of resistance, or we see compensations with the pelvis rolling under, or the opposite leg moving. At that end range, we zero the halo on the table, come up, place it, the long side against the leg, and lock in our measurement. When measuring thoracic rotation, it's important that the person is sitting on a chair or table with that chair or table against their back of their knees. This helps avoid any compensations that may occur throughout their spine and their pelvic complex that may change our final range of motion. We also want to make sure that they're sitting in their natural postural position, not trying to extend their spine or correct any postural imbalances that might be there. In looking at thoracic rotation, we're going to use our two anatomical landmarks of that C7-T1 interspace and that T12-L1 interspace on their spine. We're also going to use the short side of the halo base. Now remember, there's two different widths of these prongs, and you want to use the width, the side that's most appropriate for the person that you're measuring. We're going to have them place their arms across their chest. In this position, we're going to have them rotate slowly, keeping their eyes open, letting their head follow their rotation as far as they can go comfortably without compensating side bending or twisting. We're going to place the prongs against that C7, T1 interspace, collect our 0, move it down to the T12, L1 interspace, and lock in our measurement.